So, Masha, 3, 2, 1. Hi, and welcome to the Thinking Out Loud podcast, a show with meaningful conversations in English with non-native speakers. My name is Jendrek,
My name is Masha,
and we are two English teachers who...
who traveled to Greece today. Okay.
All right,
Gee,
great. How
that was
come,
not
Masha?
prepared. How come? So yeah, today we have a volunteer. It's a daughter of a student of mine, and she, I can say, liked our show, and she volunteered to be a guest. Yeah, am I right? So meet
All right.
Alona.
Nice to see you. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Alona.
Hi.
Nice. It's very nice to have you here, especially that you are based in Greece, which is for many people like a dream destination, at least for holidays. What about life in Greece, daily life?
Well, as you know, I'm originally Ukrainian. That happened
Right.
living in Greece right now for the last
Oh,
actually
okay.
2
All right.
years. Yeah, 2 years.
All
But
right.
I speak Greek as well. And what happened that I started learning Greek actually before coming to Greece.
All
And
right.
yeah, that's why it was a decision actually for us to move to Greece.
All right.
And how is life in Greece? Well, it's beautiful. The climate is amazing. The nature is wonderful. The people are so warm. Maria probably know most of the stories because my mom all the time in the English class is explaining and telling everything about Greece. Yeah, and well, in general, it's beautiful. The life is so
And
beautiful.
you are, tell us, please, you are living on the mainland or on an island?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we live
All right.
actually like next to Thessaloniki,
Okay.
between Halkidiki area, where the most beautiful beaches of Greece are, and Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki is the second biggest city in Greece.
Yes.
And we are living, like, I would say, in Greek Tuscany. This is what I always like.
All
Whenever
right.
I said, "Oh, mom, this is like a Greek Tuscany."
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And as far as I can tell, it's probably best explored outside of the high season, right? During the winter time or early spring, late summer or even autumn, right? When there are no tourists.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's beautiful. And actually, it's my second winter. It was my second winter this year. And there are lots of things to do even during the winter.
Yes.
Not only because they have beautiful mountains and thermal spas and, springs, and it's just nice to visit during the winter time. So I
Yes.
think Greece is the location where you can go and just explore all the time new things.
Easily, yeah, and it doesn't occur to people that they can go there outside of summer, like because for many people Greece is just sunshine and beaches and the Mediterranean Sea, but it's actually worth going there outside of the season. I know what I'm talking about because I live in the south of France, and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing outside of this typical high season.
Yeah, and we have also ski resorts in Greece.
Oh my God! There are ski resorts in Greece. My
Yeah, but you
goodness.
have to be lucky. But you have to be lucky, to catch the snow and go on those days to ski, because the snow melts so fast. But if you're lucky, 1 or 2 weeks, I think it's gonna be a beautiful ski holiday.
All right. Alona, you mentioned that you speak Greek. We know also that you took up French. You feel absolutely confident in English. Tell us what is your love with languages and what did it give you?
I think it's a long story, but I will start, and I'll make it short. Um, for maybe half of my life, I've been living abroad outside of Ukraine. So I did my first master in US in international marketing. And from there, I moved to Dubai, where I was exposed to many cultures, many languages, many traditions. And I started learning Spanish while I was
All
Uh,
right, there is Spanish on top of that.
yeah, yeah. And it was like 11 years of my life. So I've been, like exposed, yes, as I say, to different people.
Hmm.
And now it made me confident with the different nationalities. And as far as you know, that I'm also a psychologist and I work with the people around the world. And I work in 3 languages right now.
Hmm.
It's English, Russian, and Ukrainian. So learning Spanish in Dubai and then moving to Turkey, I start learning Turkish and I grew up in
Oh
Poland.
my goodness.
I,
Let's keep, the
I
count
think you
somewhere,
didn't hear the last phrase. That is, I grew up in Poland. Yep.
yes, I grew up in
You
Poland.
grew up in Poland,
Yeah,
all right.
yes. Yeah,
So
my
so does that mean that you also speak Polish, or at least
I can really understand. Last time I was in Poland 2 years ago when I was picking up my cat from the war site, and yeah, I could, I cannot speak actually Polish, but I can understand and communicate in Ukrainian, but engaging some Polish words as well,
yeah,
because
which
I
works pretty fine, I guess.
yeah, I was born in Kiev, but then my parents moved to Poland, where my brother was born. And, my first years of my life actually were in Poland. So as a child, I think I felt the language, I felt the culture, but then, without practice, I just forgot that.
Absolutely amazing. I didn't know that there is so much to it because, I had a secret question, but I think it's irrelevant right now. I wanted to ask you if there is any downside to learning foreign languages. And what I meant in particular is that it perhaps disintegrates your soul, I mean, hijacks a little bit of your,
Authenticity.
original identity. But in your case, I don't think it's so simple, right?
It's so simple.
Meaning that you were born in Ukraine, then
Yeah.
shortly after you moved to Poland, then you traveled around the world. You spent a lot of time outside of your homeland, and I don't know if you are a typical example of a foreign language learner who who's based in one country and then acquires the language, and perhaps suffers some downsides.
Well, I think since the childhood, I was in love with learning something new and languages. I started learning English in the school, and then I went to the British Council, and then, eventually I moved to US to do my master actually in English. So it's kind of, you know, I feel that um, while I was living in Dubai, I felt that now I belong to the world, not only to
Mhm.
Ukraine, because
Yeah.
being in touch with lots of people with the different languages, and yeah, it made me feel that, well, I feel Ukrainian, but I feel that my character, my authenticity can be exposed in a different way as well in Spanish
Mhm.
speaking country with Spanish people with French or English. It just, I think the more languages we know, the better we understand who we are and the people as well.
Yeah, but that starts, I guess, once you acquire the third, or maybe the second language, the third
Yeah,
language in general, because you have your native, then you speak your first foreign language, and then when you learn another one,
yeah.
I think it unlocks. I like what you said. These kind of layers of authenticity. That you can, because I think that I don't know, Masha. What is your take on that? Does the second language actually hijack your soul a little bit?
Mm, yes and no. I don't know. It's a very, very tricky question. I
Mm.
wouldn't use the word hijack.
Yeah, it's quite
It's
quite drastic,
yeah,
but it may happen.
but in a way that you don't feel that you don't identify yourself with your mother tongue anymore. How do you mean hijack?
I mean
Because
that
for me, it
you
opens,
want
like
to
you said, a
learn.
different layer, a layer of you kind of find it in yourself.
Yeah, but it's quite common that you want to learn the second language so much that you want to blend into the target language, the target culture also. And that sort of, like I say, hijacks your soul in the sense that you no longer feel attached to your mother tongue. You want to be an American or a
It may
Spaniard
only, I think
or
it can
a
only happen if
French.
you move to a country and live there, for a very long time. But if
Right.
you like Alona, if you traveled a lot, if you lived in different countries, different cultures, then yes, I think you need to have this very strong, I don't know how to say, the core, maybe, yes, so that you don't,
Hmm.
you always remember who you are, but at the same time you find these different, sides of you, which foreign languages help you to like unlock, like you said. But
Did you notice that it actually happens at a micro scale too? I remember being kind of maybe not envious, but I remember I always sort of admired bus drivers or train drivers. Those people
Mhm.
who travel around the country each day. They are able to go across the country there and back. So I always admired that because for me, train stations, bus stations have always been places where there's this feeling of mm, leaving, right? And there's this kind of nostalgia of leaving, my hometown and my place, and the people who do it daily. I mean, bus drivers or like I said, are they train drivers or train operators? I don't know how to call them, but they do it daily, and I think by doing it, you sort of it's not like you leave your
A
and
part
this
of your
nostalgia is all. Yeah,
yourself
and
there.
that nostalgia dominates your heart. It probably does, and it actually you open yourself and you become more like what's going on around the country, right? And it's not like you leave your hometown and you don't feel comfortable, but you actually feel comfortable everywhere. And I think Alona, you did that at a macro scale, right? I mean, you travel around the world and you feel at home no matter where you go now.
Yeah, it's true. And there is another thing, from the psychological part, how the brain works. Yeah, when we learn a language, it's kind of like open the door to some neurosynapses that actually creating the path. It's always a new path in our brain. So let's say if you know two languages, then the
Mhm.
third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one and the sixth, it's gonna be, just putting layers on top of each other. For example, right now I'm learning French. There are even, I can understand the French on intuitive level
Hmm.
because the French is so similar with English, with Spanish, with Greek even. So
Hmm.
sometimes I just guess what the
Yeah.
name, what the meaning of this word. But the structure of the language, of course, is different. So our brain needs to get used to that. And it's matter of time only.
Yes. 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 I subscribe 100% to what you say. All right, and that is
But I
the.
can't. I don't feel the same. Sorry, because I want to come back to this railway station. Uh,
Mhm.
I feel when I'm there, I love this place, although it's not the best place. I mean, it's like the crossroads, and it's not in
Yeah.
terms of energy. I think it's not maybe the best place to be, but
Mhm.
I don't get this feeling that I'm leaving something behind. I always have this, oh my God, another adventure, adventure, and adventure. That's how I feel.
Yeah, because you
This
are kind of forward oriented, maybe, but I'm pretty sure that, and it also depends, because the longer you stay in one place, the harder it is to leave, right? I mean, it's natural.
probably yes.
I remember how hard it was for me to leave Warsaw after spending, can't remember exactly, maybe 11 years there,
Mhm.
and it was so hard. I even, it was also totally irrational because life is good, I want to say, or can be good everywhere. You can find a doctor, you can find the grocery store, you can find everything that you need to lead a normal life everywhere. But for me, it was like, oh no, there is this vegetable, this guy who comes, God only knows where from, and he has a stall on my street, selling vegetables, some products, from his farm. And I'm gonna miss him so much, when I leave this place. And then there are some irrational things. Suddenly you love the pavements that you were walking on each day and even spitting on them.
How are you dealing with this, Alona, when you move to a new place?
Well, um, I think I live my life fully uh, mm, to the moment where I stay. For example, if I stay in Greece, I try to make each day wonderful and productive. So when I leave this place, I have no regrets, let's say. In my life, I think the only place that I felt home, really home, like, if I would be in Kiev, it was Istanbul. I lived for the last 4 years, yeah, from 2018 to 2022. I lived in Istanbul, and that place, um, I think it captured my heart in some way,
Mm.
because I felt that the climate is so similar to the one that we have in Kiev. And um, I had a problem that time with leaving Istanbul, actually. But I think I'm a very flexible person. I can I can just feel myself home in certain way. Like, for example, in Greece right now, I know that the situation here is the way we have, and I have to manage myself. So by moving, and if tomorrow I would move to France, I think I will do the same. I just will live my life. I will make my home. I will just create my hobbies, my work. And I think it all depends on attachment styles we have.
Hmm.
So if we are more um, attached to the things and environment, it's so hard for us to leave something. But if we actually see the world as the whole place where you and only you is responsible for your happy life, and no matter where you are, you're gonna move and create that life, then, letting go and feeling happy, it's gonna be easier. But I think it's all relevant to attachment style that we have.
And what did
Like,
you feel? Sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I want to ask you, what did you feel leaving Istanbul, and especially that you moved to the arch enemy of the Turks, that is Greece.
yeah. So
And
now I know
it's such a
sides.
drastic, yeah, such a drastic change, even though it's not far. But what did you feel? I know, well, you were leaving at the end of COVID, so maybe that also
During the
uh
COVID. Yeah.
during
During the
COVID, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe the city, I know, maybe you got tired of it, or I don't know, but what did you feel, and how easy or how hard was it to move from Istanbul, the city that captured your heart?
Yeah. Well, it was the most beautiful time during the COVID because
No
apart from,
tourists.
yeah, no tourists exactly. But I lived
Empty streets.
in a very local, not local, I would say, but non-touristic area. It's very quiet and beautiful area. And I would
Mhm.
say even during the COVID, I was able to walk sometimes. And I have a little art studio not far from my house, and nearly every day I was going to that studio. So there was no police. The time when we couldn't actually get out of the house, I was able to do that, and I created the most beautiful art pieces in my life, during the COVID time. So I remember this time as the most beautiful time of my life. Fortunately for me, it was like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and what did I felt? Well, I had some life circumstances that I actually had to leave, but I've created such a beautiful social life there, friendships, and my professional life. And I decided to join my family in Greece. And yes, I came, like to the second side of, this conflict between Turks
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Simmering conflicts still. They are.
and I would say they're so different. Those two nations are
The
so
Greeks don't even want to acknowledge kebab, you know. They have their own
yes,
food, you know, that is basically the same. But they're gonna call it gyros, you know. Why not?
yes, yes, yeah. It's so different, two cultures are so different, but at the same time so similar. And they're
Mhm.
just fighting for their own authenticity in this question. No, I created baklava, or we created baklava, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all
There's
conflict.
always fight. All right. Amazing, amazing, you know, all of these things. Um, Masha, is there something like a leading question of the episode, or are we simply going to attack Alona with various questions that, you know, it's so nice to have a psychologist in front of you for once.
Yeah, we couldn't choose what to ask you, how to be happy or how to be rich or
Wait, that is not the question for a psychologist. I've got one question,
why
but
not?
then again, I know I'm going to struggle with naming this episode, but that's, I think, typical for us. So let's go with that. You know, I'm watching lately. I mean, I have been watching in my life a lot of sport, you know, and but lately in particular because there's the Champions League final and the NBA playoffs and you know, and so on. And I want to ask you, and this might be a naive question, but why do you think the athletes who are 20 somethings, you know, they look so mature, and I feel like a baby when I watch them? I
Mm,
mean, you know, in terms of, I don't feel like, you know, I may be older than they are. I could even be a father to some of them, you know, slowly.
mhm,
I'm approaching this age. And yet, I feel like they are much older than me. And that is a feeling I've got almost every time watching professional athletes, 20-year-olds.
mhm.
Why
How does
is
it
that even a is that even a valid question for you?
Well, I can probably answer in some way, but how does it make you feel that you see yourself
It
young?
makes me feel like, yeah, I mean, first, I don't even try to guess their age, but whenever I do, you know, I like someone, you know, I like the way they play. I want to check. Okay, I'm going to check them in on the internet, you know, their bio, and then I
Mhm,
see this guy is 22, and he's so competent and so, you know, and he looks mature even regarding, I don't know, facial hair, you know, which, you
mhm,
know, me at 22, I don't think I had any, you know, facial hair, no mustache for sure. But
Are
is
you?
there
I don't.
anything
I'm
to
not
it?
even a psychologist, but are you entering something like middle age crisis? You look at
Oh, Masha, come on,
year-olds.
oh, come on, you know.
Oh,
No,
they
no, I
have
mean,
better facial hair than I have. Oh my god.
no, no, but they
Yep.
look mature. And you know, they are not kids like, you know, like I was, I think, at the age of 22 or 20. You know, there are world champions, be
Yeah.
it at tennis or anywhere, you know, who are 20-year-old, and they are already, you know, MVPs and so on. And I hope this is not a sign of a middle age crisis, but why does it look like they are older than they
Mhm.
actually are? This is the impression, you know, that you get before
Yeah.
checking their bios.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's totally true because I think what is important to know is that they live 1 year, like in 1 year, like 5 years in terms of energy and consumption
Hmm.
of their resources. So, and especially
Ah,
burnouts that they have, because the big sport require you to be always on top of your abilities.
yeah.
So basically, and mostly I am recently, into the research of perfectionism. And most of the sport players, they had to be perfectionists in a way, to achieve
Yeah.
the goals they want, the things they want to have and who they want to become.
Mhm.
So burnouts, it's very much related to the way they live because they always consume their resources.
And wait, and you want to say that if I follow your line of thinking, that burnouts make you older,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
not of course physically, but mentally, psychologically.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Because you see, you when you look at those players, let's say in Instagram or the way they play,
Mhm.
you're not only seeing their features, you're seeing the way they look, and they look tired most of the times because of the trainings, let's say, and stuff like this. And if they don't take care of themselves in the proper way to have a balance, and mostly it's not happening because they have to be always on track. So
Mhm.
I think it's causing the aging. This is my
Ah,
explanation from the details I got from you. But if you go deeper into these questions and understand what is behind burnout, it's all I think it's more of yes, as I said, it's perfectionists that always keep you being on track with the high standards, and the high standards makes you, give more of what you have.
that is a brilliant answer. I didn't think about it. That you're right. That they are living sort of to the max. I mean, they are having more of life than I had, and I'm probably still younger mentally because I never went through, all these challenges they've been through.
Pressure is
And I have quite a lazy life in comparison to them, right? I mean, my day,
from
yeah, but
If
exactly,
I had to
drinking
watch a
wine, eating
YouTube
cheese.
video of your life, I would choose, there's this, there's in settings you can choose speed, and I always
Yeah,
choose X2 or maybe X10
yeah.
in your case.
Yeah, and that still wouldn't be interesting, Masha, because but you're right, Alona. I mean, I felt something like this rarely when I read a very important book. Like, finishing this book in, let's say, 1 month made me feel like I'm 5 years older because
Well,
I know so much, or because it opened my eyes. It made me realize some things, and it felt literally like I'm older. I felt older, but obviously it was just 1 month of my life, right?
Jesus,
mm,
should I stop
But
reading now, like now, until
Masha,
before it's
this
too
this
late?
psychological this psychological
I don't want
age,
to feel 5 years older every time I finish a book.
stop
I
reading,
don't have much.
start playing computer games.
Start?
Start playing computer games.
What kind of advice is that?
They will make you dumber, and this way you will be younger.
Oh, ooh, okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, but
Okay.
I know, Alona, if there's anything more to it, but you really opened my eyes. I feel older now,
mm.
because it's really I didn't think about it in terms of how packed with experience is their life. It's true, and somehow you're right. It reflects on their faces.
Yes, of
You're right.
course.
Perhaps it's tiredness. It's maybe even though they are young people, and of course they don't have wrinkles, anything like this, but they look serious. Maybe this is the thing. They look
Yes.
serious.
Yeah, and as you know, the sport career is not going to be like, till the pension, till 60, 65. They know that the most productive age is
Hmm.
25, 35, and that's it. So
Yeah.
they're trying to use their skills to, to squeeze all this themselves, in order to perform, in order to reach something. And it's a big competition as well in the field
Yeah.
of sport.
Yeah. Of course. And
So
there's a lot of.
sport ballet, it's all about competition. It's all about being fit as well. So let's say if you're not feeling well, you still need to be on track.
Mhm.
And well, burnout is the sequence, is the actual result of what is happening with your lifestyle. That's why there are lots of sportsmen who are depressed,
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
through difficult crises, like professional crisis, life crisis, personal
Yeah,
crisis.
yeah. It's coming every now and then to the daylight thanks to social media these days. It was more like a open secret before, but now we can see that a lot of professional athletes, even champions, struggle mentally, of course.
Yeah, and that's why there is a sports psychology, because
Yeah.
the sports psychology is something actually different from the other parts of psychology. I am specialized in cognitive behavioral psychology, which means that the way we think affects the way we behave. In general,
Hmm.
it affects our lifestyle. So it also touches a little bit of sports psychology, but it's the techniques of work and actually the idea of sports psychology is so different from the others, because yes, it's required lots of understanding that usually sport life requires you to dedicate your life to the sport. But we are humans and we have this wheel of balance, the balance wheel, where we actually have our hobbies, our health, our family. And if it's not balanced, then we feel, more depressed, unhappy. And this is what's happening to the sportsmen, to the
Hmm.
sport area people.
Great. You mentioned that you are into perfectionism professionally, and
No, I
I
mentioned
don't
that I was
know.
that in the research, but I'm not into perfection.
Yeah, but you reminded me of one question that is in my database, namely, what's the difference between a pedant and a perfectionist?
Mm.
And I don't know if you feel any difference there. A pedant, that is, a person who's going to arrange all the stuff on the desk in a
Oh,
perfect order,
okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so much correlated with each other, because the person who is trying to arrange his life, he's also perfectionist because he has some kind of disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder,
Hmm.
OCD, yeah,
Hmm.
which is very much related to the issue of controlling the life and make the life perfect in order to be safe. This is the core belief that in order for me to be safe in life, I have to wash my hands 500 times,
Yeah.
right? To make
Yeah.
sure that no bacteria around me. I have to put my books in order to exactly feel that, yes, it looks perfect and I feel okay. So it's all come to the core belief of safety, of am I good in this world or not? And if the world is perfectly arranged, that I feel fine. But
Hmm.
it comes to the obsessive side of these rituals, let's say. And perfectionism is it's a core of this obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a core. Without perfectionism, but it's in a destructive way. Those people, with the OCD, we don't call it pedant because, yeah, it's
Is
more,
this
I
a
think, slang.
pejorative?
Yeah, I think like a slang in the language, but it's
What is, by the way, the because I think perhaps I'm making a calc from the Polish language. It's
yeah,
like a
and we have
stickler. It's a
yes, stickler. Yes, it's more
stickler.
stickler.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a stickler, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
But
the
you could be
first,
pedantic. There is an adjective,
Adjective, yeah.
pedantic.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure if But yeah, stickler. I say pedant because I think it functions well in the Polish language.
yeah, and in Ukrainian as well, we have
All
this.
right, all right.
I understood you. Yeah, so yeah, perfectionism is the core of the person who is having his life in this order. Your question was
So
related,
yeah,
right?
my question was about the difference, between being a stickler. Let's stick to that term, and a perfectionist, because obviously being a stickler is like going one step too far, perhaps, in your perfectionism, or isn't it the case? Because
I think not every
like you say, it
not every perfectionist is a stickler, right?
No,
But
exactly.
every stickler is a perfectionist.
Yeah.
But what sort of perfectionism is that? I mean, it is paralyzing. You can't move on because you have to arrange your desk or close the door 5 times, before they are closed perfectly.
Yes, it's true. Or, for example, you cannot go outside without having a beautiful makeup or having your
Yeah.
nails done or all of these things. Let's clarify what is perfectionism so we can understand, right? So perfectionism actually is having a very high standards and having a tendency to make things extremely well. And if we are not achieving, if the person is not achieving these targets, then he start either blame himself or not appreciate things that he already done. So there are lots of
Mhm.
downsides of these conditions. It's actually related to many things that happen in our childhood, the way we observe the world. Because let's say you have some parents who, whatever you do, they would never tell you, you are so good that you've done that. Well done. And or they might not tell you anything, but they will act in a way that you will read as a child
Mhm.
in unconscious level, that I have to follow the standards of my family. And if I'm not doing that, that I'm no one. This is the underneath thinking. But usually the person only understand that when they come to the therapy, they see the therapist, and then they understand why they do certain things in life, not because they understand that I'm no one. We discover that in the therapy, that it comes to the core belief of the person that I'm not good if I don't
Mhm.
do things in a perfect way.
Sorry, and that belief is instilled by the parents,
Yeah.
or
So by the caregivers, I would say, because not
or
many
yeah, yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
They may not be parents, of course.
Yes, by the caregivers. So when we grow, we observe the world, we observe the people and our feelings in this environment. So we usually say that we have a tendency to have a judgments about the world. Is it safe place or it's a place where I will be criticized? Because in my
Hmm.
environment, for example, not in my environment, but in the person environment, when he or she was small, he was always criticized for not putting the toys in the right place or not achieving something what the parents were asking him to achieve or expecting him to achieve. And then he understands that the world is the place where I have to be always on the high standards to be valued, to be
Hmm.
appreciated. So yeah, it's come from the environment. It's come from the way our parents or caregivers talk to us. So we internalize this idea into us,
Hmm.
and then when we grow, we actually externalize this idea into the world.
But nothing is set in stone, right? I mean, we can uh,
Change.
reverse that in our adult life.
Definitely,
It will
definitely.
cost you though.
You mean,
And I'm not only speaking about money. I mean, it's
Let's,
very
let's,
painful, a very painful process.
but I'm of the opinion, and perhaps because I'm a teacher, that everything is changeable. It's not like, your childhood, no matter what it was, could have been, painful as hell, and so on, but everything is reversible or repairable, so to say. I
I
don't
agree.
believe in that determinism that, once we were okay wired during the childhood, it's over. Now you have to travel, go through your life with all these traumas and some weird consequences of your caregivers unconscious behavior, right? Because I
Mhm.
believe that I'm probably damaging my children, you know, in the way my
Very
parents,
likely,
let's say,
yeah.
damaged me. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to be a good parent.
But
I
before
mean,
before we go
conscious.
to changing, can I go back a little bit? We as English teachers, we very often see people who come to us and they say that, you know, my English is so bad, I'm afraid to speak to other people. But 10 minutes into the conversation, we see that it's simply not the case. Are we dealing with perfectionism here?
It might be, yes. Yeah, for me to say exactly that it's perfectionist, I need to know more details. But when the person is in general speaking English and saying, I don't speak English, or
Not that
I
I don't, but it's so bad that I'm afraid to open my mouth and to say what I think.
Yeah, because I think from the back of his mind, right, he was comparing himself, let's say, to the people who already, let's say, speak English.
Mhm.
And this perfectionist is stopping him. Yes, I agree with you, Maria, that it's mostly a perfectionist. Because for example, Jedrick, when I went to France, lots of people speak English, but they say we don't speak English. And I was
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah, yeah, of course, of
something
course.
about that France, that
Yeah.
why would people, they actually speak to you and they can just, have a conversation, but they actually said, no, my English is not good. And I find out from my friends that in the school, they always, the French people, they try to implement that idea of perfectionism in whatever they do. And it's also reflecting their elderly life on the way they do things and speak. Even though they speak English, they still say, we don't
Mhm.
speak English.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't believe in sociology normally, but I think there is a huge national trauma regarding speaking English in France.
yeah,
There is,
it's
there is that, but there is more to it than just the school system and so on. There is also these cultural elements, like they are the culture who somehow dominated us, right? And now we are somehow inferior to them, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot going on in this, if it exists at all. This national subconscious.
Yeah, yeah. And Maria, coming back to your question regarding if the person is, speaking English but feeling that, it's also the way he probably was expressing himself earlier. And usually when we are kids, we need acceptance in whatever we do, even if we do the small steps, right? It's regarding the kids. They search for love and acceptance, even if they
Mhm.
just make something stupid, simple thing. They still need
Yeah.
validation. So when that person is coming to the English class and trying to speak English, and he's actually speaking English but saying about himself those things, it's reflect to the trauma that he has earlier of non-acceptance first himself, in a bigger case, that he's not accepting and he's not seeing his,
And it doesn't refer to language, but generally.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Mhm.
personality, yeah.
personality, yes, that he might not see his little victories,
Mhm.
but he would see this huge gap of what I'm not doing well.
And right now, I will be, of course, looking for validation to validate that what we are doing actually works. Because I very often I want to say to this person, after a trial class, that you need more. Maybe you'd better spend this money on a therapist than on classes with me. But of course, I don't say that to people because I understand that it's about their personality. But actually, what we are doing, we believe what we are doing is that we are working with their confidence. But I wonder if I'm even able to do that, because let's say I can see that after a month or two, a person becomes more relaxed. I mean, confident, but it's only in this very artificial environment that we create
Yeah.
in my classroom. So, what are the chances that, I mean, what we are doing works outside the classroom?
It's a good question, actually. Yeah. So the first thing, what is happening, just I want to, kind of reflect on that. You said that after 1, 2 months, he feels more comfortable. Usually those people, they don't have trust easily. Someone will come and just will talk to you and feel, he's in a safe place where he can speak
Yes,
it,
yes.
speak loud about things, but the other person needs some time. The same thing in therapy. One can come and tell you everything, and the other one will tell you everything after the 10th session. So it all depends on the, client and student and teacher relationship. And if he can open up here in this environment, but then it's so hard to go and speak outside, there are some thoughts that's stopping him. If we come back to the therapy, in cognitive behavioral therapy, I always would ask this client, what is the thought that is stopping you from going and talking? And usually it's a thought of being wrong, that I would not say incorrect way. So we work on that, and then we come to the practical point where we call it behavioral activation, where we actually go outside, and even if you speak wrong or you say some things not in a grammatically, correct way, the same you can do it in the lesson with the teacher, you still talk. So when the person is coming back, it's all related as well to the public speaking. Some people, they can speak, nicely, in the with one-on-one conversation, but then when they go and they see 10, 20, 30, 100 people, they just being numbed, so it's all related to the idea that they see themselves better than they actually are. But after this behavioral experiment that we do, the usual people come and they say, okay, nothing happened actually to me. I survived. I'm still alive. And then it was scary, but I did it. And they feel a little bit of self-worth. And if I am a therapist, also give some validation to his worries, that it's normal that you had that, but you did it. And I look and I put attention more on his advantages than disadvantages on that. Then the second time, the third time will be easier to do. So it's
Yeah,
all
it's
about steps that we do in the therapy, but it's all related to the beliefs and thoughts that are creating this catastrophizing thoughts, actually, that it's going to be the end of the world.
yeah, and I want to add that it's always a lottery whether your experience outside the therapy or classroom is going to be helpful or destructive, right? Because it might be traumatic, it might be too difficult, and so on. And on top of that, in languages, in particular, it's so easy to make someone feel like nothing. Like, if you go out to the world and you try to communicate with your basic skills, you know something, you are not you're not a total beginner, but you know something, but not everything. It's so easy to make you feel so small and insignificant, and even, it's so easy. It's everything depends on your conversation partners. Because if there is someone who is superior to you in skills, let's say a native speaker, or even, your boss, who's perhaps not even better but more self-confident, right? They
Mhm.
may make you feel like you are nothing. And that is, what I find in languages very, very cruel. But it's happening. People are using this. People are using this kind of let's say advantage that they have sometimes to make others feel really, really bad.
Yeah, the superior people, they try to
Yeah,
suppress.
yeah, exactly. Just to show everybody that, you're not as good as you think. You have to work harder. And for some people it works like a motivation, but for some people it totally destroyed
Crushes them,
their
yeah.
self-esteem and so on, and it makes them want to run from further interactions, right?
Yeah. So when we do this behavioral experiments, let's say, yes, when the person is going outside and actually talking, we give the skills that he has to implement during the time. What if something goes wrong? Yes, he have a coping card then to read that it's gonna
Mhm,
be not the end of the world. Even if I speak 3 words, I will still try, and it's gonna be my little success, something like this.
mhm,
So, and when we come back to the relationship part, when your boss is trying to suppress you, yeah,
mhm,
and I think it all comes to the narcissistic more behavior. If you want to make someone feel inferior, am I correct in the word? Yeah, inferior, like
mhm.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and it's And it's very difficult for the person, of course, if they don't have self-esteem, plus they are trying to go back to this rabbit hole again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge support of the therapist in this process to go and talk and expose yourself. And I have a very successful cases on that, not related to the language, but overcoming the anxiety, general anxiety disorder, and lots of things. Because actually, that person who is talking, he's having anxiety, and it's a main emotion that's stopping him of
Oh,
living.
it's a pity you mentioned this word anxiety, and it's so late in our show, because that is a concept, that is a
So,
concept number one these
yeah. But
days,
unfortunately, no.
All right,
So
Masha.
does it even, I mean, it seems to me, listening to your answer, that as teachers and not psychologists, there's very little we can do, right? In our classroom with these traumatized people who come and,
You can do one thing, I think. It's so important. Validation, as you said. Always showing them what they do better. Acknowledging that. This is the
Positive
best.
feedback, Masha.
that's
Yes,
what
yes.
Jendrik is a big believer in only positive feedback. He's an ass kisser. He doesn't give
No,
negative
no, come on, don't
feedback
call
to,
me an ass
to
kisser.
his.
I'm not an ass kisser, I just see, and it's not like, I'm kissing asses. I'm just
We
looking
Okay,
will
he
at
see.
the bright side,
genuinely he genuinely sees only
Yeah. It's
good
not
things
like,
in
yeah,
People
it's not
pleaser?
like,
People pleaser, I would
no, no,
say.
no, no. He genuinely sees great things in people. That's his superpower.
Okay, so if we come to the subject of student and teacher, yes, teacher and student relationship, I think with the students who are lacking the self-esteem, it's so important to encourage them to see those good parts, what they achieved during the class, because they're already having this conversation inside their head that they are not good enough, they are not enough, and all the things. So when they come to the person who is the teacher, and I think for every teacher is so important to have at least the basic knowledge of psychology, right? And I know Maria, because my mom was telling me that you involved into psychology or coaching or something like this, right? So no?
It's just self-education. That's it.
Yes, self-education, yes, but it's so important because when we are dealing with such a fragile, souls that they come and they already feel not positive about themselves, they're searching for something where they can rely on and have more validation. But sometimes they won't believe you even, and it's another problem. When you say, for
Very
example,
often they don't
Yeah.
believe
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly,
they don't believe you because inside them, they feel that you are not saying the truth, because this is probably the relationship they experience with their caregivers when they're kids. When one
It's also
time,
cultural, also cultural. I think in our case, Central Eastern Europe, we are like that. We are more likely to receive a criticism than a positive feedback or a compliment, right? That's
Mm,
why we are always looking for that hidden criticism, even if somebody says something nice. I know you must be lying, it can't be like that. Yeah,
yeah, but it's still all related, not everyone, but it's still related to the experience he had previously,
yeah,
that he
yeah, yeah,
doesn't
for
believe
sure.
it's good enough, so you can say, yes, you're good. But I think in your guys' work in teaching the language is such an amazing and important job in the world that, because through that process, the person can become someone else, by getting a new job, traveling and experiencing life.
Or even himself or herself.
Yeah.
Not someone else, yeah, but discover this different layer.
Yeah, different layers of life, right? So it's so important to give that part of success to the person, but at the same time to understand maybe a little bit what is behind that. He's not believing, or he's not sure if he's good, and still continuing that process. One day he developed a trust relationship. But I think it's also important to see what is not good, but in a certain way, in a certain style, because not
Ooh,
every
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. That is, it's a creating a balance, because also in psychology, when the people come to me, I cannot say, oh, I can see behind the person brain and what is happening. I have to acknowledge the good things, but I have to deal with the more negative part to heal and create this, balance. So I think all needs to be in balance, but in a certain way, so the person will not be judged or feel judged when you're saying something like mm, more seeing the negative parts of the process.
Yeah,
So
this
Jendrik, you
judgment.
should
I mean,
add a degree in psychology to your already. How many you have?
How
3?
many
I don't
degrees?
know. I'm already
He stopped counting.
I'm overeducated. I'm overeducated, but it doesn't look like this, right? I mean, I hope it doesn't. But
Oh, come on, of course it does.
Masha, are you in a rush now
No,
for
no,
another
but I
class? All
think
right, because
Alona has another person to help, not only
all
us.
right,
Don't be
I have
greedy.
1 or 2 minutes maximum, and
all
unfortunately,
right.
guys, I have to leave. Yes,
Yeah.
All right, great.
but
So
I will.
I'm not going to open another Pandora box. This conversation was, more than interesting. It's been really a pleasure,
Thank
listening to what you have to say from your professional perspective, but also from your personal point of view. It's simply fantastic, listening to you.
you very much. Thank you.
Um, thanks so much. I think we have to stop here, Masha, right?
Yeah, we have to,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately.
All
Yes.
right.
We could go on
Good.
all day,
Oh
but
yeah, I've got, there are so many
I
things,
already have
there is
a lot of questions.
there is the other side of what we were talking about, for example, so that is not criticizing people or not giving them, that negative feedback. And there are also downsides of that. There's this horrible anxiety thing that is right now eating the world, as we speak, and so on. There's so much to talk about, in psychology. It's a never-ending, a source of subjects.
We
All right,
can
so
do
maybe
another
perhaps
episode.
yes,
So,
exactly. We we,
Oh,
we 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 need to meet again for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
This is not the end. Great,
thank you.
Okay.
Masha. Over to you.
Over to me. Yes. So thank you everyone for staying with us. And this was another episode of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.